So, hey everyone, thank you for listening. This is Jack Mangan, and we are really privileged today to talk to what, in my mind, and I'm not saying this is empty flattery or anything, I honestly, genuinely believe this is one of the most powerful, talented, amazing vocalists just on the scene today, and one of the most important bands on the scene today. It's amazing to have Cammie Gilbert of Oceans of Slumber here today to talk about, well, the new album, of course, but all things Oceans of Slumber. But so, Cammie, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the compliments.
Sure. Like I said, no, I'm not into just empty flattery. I truly am blown away by by your talent. So yeah. Well, let's get right into Starlight and Ash. I mean, tell us. Maybe first tell us about the title. Tell us about the meaning behind the title.
So I really adore this album, and I really like the titles and the song names. And so Starlight and Ash is about how we have this great kind of vast spectrum of human existence that we strive throughout our lives to, sort of reach the stars, so to speak, and to be of something of merit and to leave an imprint and to just have a legacy. And that is the starlight of our lives, whether, we pour ourselves into our children or our pursuits or our relationships or doing, services for others, like that's the starlight, like that is our legacy. And then on the kind of opposite end or the completed end of all that is of ashes to ashes and dust to dust, so to speak, that regardless of how much we strive to do or how much we accomplish, like we all go back to ashes, we all go back to dust. And so we wanted it to kind of show that spectrum of life, that would kind of be found in the storylines and in the lifelines that are weaved throughout the songs, with the title.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed listening to the new album. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't catch that specific phrase, but I hear references, so I get it. It's cool that I do hear it interwoven throughout.
Yeah, if it's a Candlemass song.
Oh,
From ashes to ashes and dust to I mean, it's a biblical reference too, but there's song lyrics out there somewhere.
oh, sure. See, shame on me for not catching that reference. I'm supposed to be metal, right?
It's okay.
But well, let's actually. I didn't even mean to go there just now, but let's go there because we know that sometimes there can be the gatekeepers or some people who want to throw labels and genres and and say, well, wait a minute, what is this album? So tell us how this album fits kind of in the whole musical landscape, metal or and other musical forms.
I think that what's unique about Oceans of Slumber is that we do genre bend, so much. And one thing that's funny to me is when I thought of music labels or I thought of bands and genres and how people use them to categorize bands, I always took them more as like a suggestion. And as Oceans has kind of evolved and changed and transitioned, and I see how people respond and they treat it like it's a rule or like, I mean, some people treat it like it's a law and they get real upset, but and it's like, to me, genres are a suggestion. They're an idea so people can figure out maybe what they're going to listen to. But I guess I never put so much emphasis on what genre I thought something was when I went to listen to it. And with Oceans of Slumber, we have such a vast influence with so many influences. And I myself, I didn't learn to sing from singing metal. I really, I've learned to sing from a place of like pure raw emotions. And so for me, it's like those transcend any genre, but we weave in gospel and soul and country and folk and rock, and there's definitely metal elements, but I guess with this album, with the lack of kind of heavy vocals or growls, that those elements are now exclusively brought in instrumentally. um and so that makes for a different kind of tapestry of how the heaviness is conveyed on this album.
Sure. And just for my money, I feel like that. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That some of those elements are not necessarily there, but this album doesn't feel like this massive departure from the last three or four. I mean, that's something I definitely have my own opinions on, but I'd love to hear your take on just Oceans of the evolution from from album to album and where we are now with Starlight and Ash.
I feel like if you could look at Oceans of Slumber's trajectory, sort of like a mountain climber, like learning to climb. And I'm not a mountain climber, so this might be a really bad like metaphor or analogy or whatever, but it's like you reach for a rock and it's a little shaky and it's not quite right, or the footing's not quite there, and you find a more steady place to put your hand, and then you continue up, and it's a series of like test and foundation and strength underneath your grip or underneath your footing, and then you reach the top. And I feel like from my entry into the band until now, we have always fluttered around this idea of what I feel like Starlight and Ash is a very concise moment of, from Winter to the Banished Heart to the self-titled album, the EPs, like everything. And that has been finding a way to showcase my voice into finding a groove that felt unique, that felt like our own, that we had the confidence to put together, and in a way that only we could put together. That I agree, this is not a serious departure, it's not even something radically different, and it's not very different at all from the last album, the self-titled album, which we feel like laid the groundwork for this being kind of the natural next step. And so, to our surprise, people don't necessarily feel that way, or a few here and there. But this has been, it's a personal experience that we are sharing when we make these albums and we put them out, and that's where we were in that time and place during the pandemic, being shut off, being in on ourselves. It's like that's what we sound like. That was the roots and the home life of where we were. And it I feel like there was a writing that ended up being so much more potent because it wasn't diluted with seeing a lot of other bands live, or even talking to people or seeing anybody live. And so,
Mhm.
something unique came out of that isolation. And I think it's more concrete than anything we've done before, but it's not. There's been there's been a little breadcrumb trail throughout all of our discography. So, it's they've always been elements that we've sprinkled out here and there.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I absolutely hear a lot of Banished Heart also on this record. I mean, I hear you're
Mhm.
saying, but I definitely hear, it's definitely an Oceans of Slumber record for sure. Um, well, can you tell me a little bit about how the songs coalesce? I mean, how these songs get written? Is it just Dauber sits down at the piano, or is it more of a like the everyone kind of gets together and jams? How did Oceans of Slumber songs get written?
No, it definitely starts with Dauber sitting down at the piano. I guess we're kind of isolationists when it comes to writing, is what, we've had different people join the band. They're like, oh, I can't wait to write together. And then we're like, ooh, about that. Dauber sits down alone. He is at the helm of his, studio. So he has guitar and all the things that make the sounds. And he writes out the songs, and then, or, one of the guys will kind of pitch a riff or pitch a song or parts of something that they want to include. And then it kind of like goes into the machine that is Dauber, and he puts the song together. And then once it's there, then everybody will tweak or change or add or subtract based on what they can do and how they feel about it, like as a band. And then once they've all agreed that that's how it's going to go, and they record either a live track or I get like a bounce demo, then I slink away and write to it, and put lyrics and melody and all that. And it doesn't see the light of day until I'm ready for, like, I'm 90% sure that's what is going to be final for what I'm going to do to it. And then I'll let Dauber hear it. And then I'll reluctantly let everybody else hear it.
Reluctantly meaning everyone else in the band or the rest of us in the rest of the world?
Well, the rest of the band. And then we get together, we practice it, we work out any kinks, and then we go to the studio.
Well, that's great. I like the Dauber machine too. That's good. And also, I mean, I guess what you just said, I mean, I can hear, because each song does feel so, there's so much emotional resonance, and use the word personal, and I really get that these songs are deeply personal. Excuse me. And I think I can hear how that process kind of lends to that.
I guess, like, I never think of the song, like, I never, when I sit down to write, I never think like I'm writing a song, like, what is this song gonna be about? Like, it's not, it's more like, okay, I get this gift of a new song, and then I listen and I'm like, what is it asking? Like, what does it need said? Like, what does it want from me, or what do I need to get out? Like, what does this song bring up inside of me, or bring to mind, or like feelings that it causes? And then I write to that. I almost never think about how other people are going to feel about what I wrote until it's too late. and then I freak out and be like, oh, what did I say, or what did I mean? And I write it like I'm just writing it for myself. And it's always a surprise, or like a big awakening when the album comes out and other people have their opinions or their feelings or what the song means to them. And I'm like, oh, wow, well, now it's yours, or now it's different. And it just is a different process for me, I guess.
All right. Well, I have to ask now. You got to tell me if you can think of anything off the top of your head, just one or two of your favorite moments where someone's kind of had an incredible, powerful reaction to a song, to an Ocean song, or any song you've been a part of. So before the pandemic, we were touring with the Banished Heart, and a woman came up to me. I don't remember where we were, but she was really nervous and really shaky. And I want to say this was before the show even happened, because sometimes we hang out and it was like post sound check. And she was telling me how she hadn't been to the venue since before her father had died. And that this was the first time, like, stepping into the venue and the first band that she had come to see, and she didn't know if she would even make it through the show, but that she was just so moved to be there and so emotional about being there. And she ended up making it through the show, and she talked to me afterwards. But it always has stuck with me, like, just how much our music meant to her, that she pulled herself out of this grief or out of this fear to come experience it, because she felt like it was going to help her heal and get through her grief and get through, that this venue wasn't going to be haunted for her anymore. And that meant a lot to me. And then,
we make serious music, and it's about grief and about loss. And so I get a lot of people sharing with me about their loss and like about their grief. Another one that I cried. I felt really bad about crying, but a mother and her son came to the show, and she was on in hospice care and kind of shouldn't have been out, but this was kind of going to be her last show, and her and her son had bonded over their love for Oceans of Slumber, and they wanted to come to the show. And so she was in a wheelchair, and her son was pushing her, and they hung out, and I met with them, and that was really incredible. There's a very special, very quiet thing to convalescent care and to like end of life care, and for someone to want our music to be a part of that is, I think, tremendously special. And so those are people I think about often, and I probably think about every time we set off to like do a tour. That I've had a lot of grief in my life, and I've lost a lot of people, and I don't mind people sharing that weight, because I don't think it's necessarily just negative or sad. I think it's very therapeutic and very healing, and it's very kind when people want to sort of welcome you into that space. That I think grief is a very tender thing, and it gets treated as such a negative thing sometimes. So not that has been how our music has been resonating with people, and I guess some of the stories that sleep in my heart still.
Wow. Yeah, I'm verklempt. That's an incredible story. That really, just does kind of give me chills to think, that about the mother and son, and that, that's people do connect. But I get that too. I absolutely have the same emotional reaction. And I recall actually seeing you live, and the emotion in your performance. I remember, you're performing with tears in your eyes for certain songs, and that's a rare thing. I guess there's no question here. I'm just kind of saying that's something I really admire. I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
And it's, I know you're telling this poignant story, and my cat was making noise in the background, so I hope that didn't.
She's singing the song of her people.
That's right, exactly. She was feeling the emotion. But yeah,
the cats, they do. They're very emotional.
But so now, I guess I'll take a little bit of a sidestep. Now, for Starlight and Ash, now there's a little bit of a New York City connection to this record, right? Can you tell us, tell us a little bit about how that happened, how Texas and New York came together.
We're Brooklynites now. We've been to Brooklyn. Yeah. We had done some research, and we really wanted to work with a studio that had, kind of all the bells and whistles of gear and recording devices, and just all the gear talk side of, recording. And Dauber, he had done a lot of research, and we came across Joel Hamilton with Studio G in Brooklyn, and he only works, in people whose music he can get behind, and he hit it off with Dauber pretty much right away, and was super excited about working with us. So we packed up, and we stayed the entire month out there to track and do everything. And that was the first, because we've been kind of DIY with some of our previous albums, with recording part of it ourselves and staying local. And so this was kind of a big next step for working with a producer, so to speak, and working in a studio. And what is so awesome about Joel is his ability to, I feel like, become a part of the band and help yourself and help you bring to life like what you want. And that's not, it's not about like, what you should do, or you should do this, or switching anything up. Like, he just is there, and it's like, yeah, that works, and we can do that. And I think this would be great. And then embellishments. And so, like, well, let's get, piano and background and synth and all violin, like all sorts of things just going. And it's very magical and it's very lovely, like rustic feeling studio, even for being, in Brooklyn. It just has that bare bones sort of exposed frame kind of vibe to it. And yeah, it was right when New York opened post pandemic. And so everyone was like, yeah, we're out again and we're city folks and summertime. And it was insanity because we had just come from like shut down Houston, Texas, like can't go anywhere. I mean, as much as Houston or Texas was very bad about shutting down, but like, things were mellow, no shows and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so it was like airplane, subway, everybody's everywhere. It's gay pride month. Like everything is so bright and just out of hand. And so it was a culture shock for sure. Like my anxiety was definitely really high because I'm like, wow, there's so many people and everybody's so different. Everybody's so different in New York from each other. Like not different, like from like, another state or something. The diversity of just that group of people there and like from any given block, like just such potent, unique people. And it was so nice to just see, getting along and everybody needs the subway, everybody uses the roads, everybody can just go and come and it doesn't matter a lot about what you look like or what you're into. It's just a busy city. I've never done so much walking in my life. Public transportation, like I've never ridden the bus in Texas. Or I guess in Texas, in Houston. And there it was like we're on the bus, we're on the train, we're on a ferry. Like so many options.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the energy in New York is so different from anywhere else I've ever been, ever. It's such a unique place. I miss New York. I mean, it's the same where I am now. There's hardly any public transportation. It's great. And I mean, I guess, as an outsider, I don't know I don't hear the New York influence on the album, but I'm sure, you guys can hear it. I don't know if you hear it, if you listen to it and go like, yeah, this is a moment that can like happen because we were in Brooklyn. I don't know if that kind of thing
I think
comes out.
not so much that, but it's like Joel is so connected to a lot of other bands and styles that we have loved for a really long time. And he's worked with all kinds of artists and he is such a old soul type of person that in being there, he's friends with Carla Kilstead and he has projects and I don't want to name the wrong ones, but it's like Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. He's worked with Nick Cave, like he's worked with Nina Simone, and it was him just like lending his musical expertise to us in a way that I've never seen Dauber make such fast friends. Like he's not a fast friend maker, and they just like got to the root of each other and understand each other in this way and continue to be friends. We're going back up there with Necrofire to record, and Joel has come down to visit us a couple of times now. And, he understands the kind of artist that we are. And I think that that's what makes the relationship and the recording like different from just like saying going in and like, oh yeah, we work with a producer, like he produces all these cool people. It was like he understood us and and we are friends. I don't know if we were supposed to make friends with him, but we did. And so now, it's just been different. And this album, he brought to life the Southern feel of it in New York, which is the feat that, I think is the true magic.
Wow. That's awesome. And to me, I don't know, that sounds great. That sounds like that's the most important thing. But what do I know? But
No, I agree.
but well, I don't want to. We've got a limited time, so I definitely want to ask back to Starlight and Ash. We haven't really geeked out a lot about the some of my favorite moments from the old records, but I definitely want to ask. I've been listening to the new one quite a bit over the past couple of days, and I'm still exploring it and finding all these amazing little moments. But I'm going to ask you, what are some of your favorite moments throughout the whole record?
My top favorite moment is the ending of Salvation. Um, just the whole song Salvation. Dauber wrote the whole song and he wrote the lyrics for that song. And it's always special to me when I can make his songs fully come to life. And when he gives me the words, because I feel like that's just such a special task. And he refuses to sing in front of me. So I was like, well, then I'll have to do it. And so Salvation has been a song that he's had for a while. And I was glad that it finally got to come to life on this album. And I remember when we were at the studio, they really wanted me to kind of go off at the end, like really do my thing, like open up and riff. And I can riff, but I would say that's the one area that I'm nervous about as a singer. And it's not like nerves like, oh, I can't do it, or like it's not going to be right, but whatever the performance embarrassment and just apprehension is to being like, like, because there's a vulnerability and there's like a wildness to it that unsettles me. And but they're like, nope, we got to do it. And so, I'm like, well, kill the mic. Let me just practice in there. But knowing both of them, I was like, they're not really going to kill the mic. Like they're going to still record just in case I do something like that they like. And so I was like, whatever, like we'll just go for it. And I remember there's like a frequency or there's like an alignment. Let's say like, I don't know, like it's like if there's just a frequency that moves through my body that I feel like when I get it right, that it feels the best. And the light, kind of daylight's coming through the top window, give it, when you get that kind of stream of like a sunbeam that kind of comes through. I'd shut all the lights off because I'm a vampire bat child when I have to record. It's like I need it as dark and cave-like as possible. And it hit, and it was just a riff that instantaneously I feel like it's transported me somewhere else. And it was like I'm a time traveler when it comes to these songs, and that's the feel that like I was going for. And so kind of that ending riff over the gospel kind of chants at the end of Salvation is something that like I love that part, and I loved the process and kind of getting out of my own way to accomplish that. Is something that I think about, on the album. And then the other one is Red Forest Road. Just that whole song, I think, is so charging. And it was the other, I guess, it's the other song. Well, it's the other song that was written kind of for Dauber, and I want to say he lended lyrics on that one too. And it was just, there's just something so energetic and like pushing about it. And so it's when the chorus kind of change and there's this like kind of jet sound that comes up, and it sounds like a jet like going over your head, and then it drops out, and there's like I can't name the musical components. I might be in a band, but I don't know the musical terms. And there's just this silent part, and it's just my lyrics, and then it comes crashing back in, and that part always gives me goosebumps, and I really like it. And I always picture some like jet. It's always that movie moment when someone's running down like like the airplane lane, I don't know what you call it, and then they have to duck because some plane's like coming over. It's always some like weird military movie or something, but I always that's just always what comes to mind. It's always such a powerful thing. You're like, oh, watch out, the plane, and they're running and they like jump into some car. Like it's so action packed, and I like that part a lot.
No, that's an awesome perspective on it. No, I think that's great. And yeah, I was gonna say I got to go back and rediscover that one. I mean, I know like I said, I've listened to the whole thing a couple of times. I know the moment you're talking about, but now I have to go back and listen to that with fresh ears. But yeah, I mean that ending to salvation, absolutely. Just that is the first takeaway moment. You know, after your first listen, you go like, wow, that is powerful stuff. So that I dig it. You know, but you know, I have a million more questions, but I guess we're basically out of time. But I just want to say, you know, it's a fantastic album. I hope you guys, I mean, if you want to just take us out and just tell us what you guys are planning to do, what Oceans of Slumber have in mind for the rest of 2022 and into 2023. But before we do that, I'll just say thank you so much for coming on, Cammie. It's been an honor. It's been great. I love the new album, and look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully, when you come through my town.
Thank you. It's been very fantastic talking with you too.
Thanks.
And then Oceans, we have a tour coming up at the end of August. It's a like a small US run. We're going to try and kind of break up the US into kind of 4 separate runs. And so this will be the first one. And then we're trying to figure out, I guess, some festivals and getting over to Europe also sometime soon, and maybe into next year. But who knows with the state of traveling and things always changing. But I started a Patreon as a way for people to kind of stay connected. It's connected to Discord, which I think is really cute. And I've been probably sending way too many like of the weird little jumpy emojis. But it just lets people kind of have a direct line to me and keeping up, because, you know, social media can be a little daunting sometimes and a little toxic. And so it's just a nice break to kind of make your own space. And so that's what I've tried to do. And then with any other projects that might be coming up, that's where people can kind of find out about them. But Oceans of Slumber is fully tour mode and trying to just get back live in front of people. Like, we're so excited for, you know, we missed the whole album cycle doing stuff. And so we definitely don't want to do that with this one.
Well, great. Yeah. So everyone support the Cammie Gilbert Patreon and absolutely catch Starlight and Ash when it comes out. Like as of this interview time, a couple of days, end of July 2022, and catch them on the road. I guess, yeah, you have the last word, Cammie, but thank you so much again. Thanks.
Thank you so much.